Good. Good morning, everyone. I'm Warren Williams. I'm the Food Systems Coordinator for the Chicago Partnership for Health Promotion, a program out of the Office of Community Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships. And I'm going to let my good friend and co-presenter today introduce himself.
Yes, good morning, greetings. This is Robert Johnson, and I represent Chicago Grows Food and Center for Urban Transformation. It gives me great pleasure to be here relative to this workshop on season extension, extending growing in your garden throughout the winter season. Thank you.
So please understand this is a overview. We're not going to get highly technical. We will give you all some direction in terms of where you can go for more information. We trust that people that are viewing this are fully capable of doing a deeper dive if they'd like, but we just want to encourage people that are interested, that's the other part of this, and growing beyond the more traditional seasons. Typically in Chicago, that's around June the 1st through the middle of September, or as it were, today, the 1st of October. So those of you who want to continue to do that, or people that want to continue to do that, they're more than welcome to do that, of course. And we encourage everybody to engage in home gardening. And this presentation is really directed at our home gardeners, as opposed to people who are doing farming or other kinds of bigger operations. This is for us homebodies. So we're going to get started. There is a just an overview of what the workshop's about. Some of that I just covered. Again, directed toward home and backyard gardeners. We want to emphasize again, nothing wrong with gardening during the traditional gardening season. Depending on your crop selections, which we will cover more during the presentation, you can grow almost basically, we could say year round in Chicago. Your budget will assist you in deciding what system works for you. We do not endorse or advocate for any system over another. It all depends on what your capabilities are financially, in terms of technical skills like carpentry, whatever the case may be. We will provide, like I said, keywords during the presentation for you to be able to go into your favorite search engine and begin to look deeper into this area of gardening. Any information that here is the opinion of the folks that have done the YouTube videos, and they're not those of Chicago Grows Food, Chicago Partnership for Health Promotions, or the University of Illinois Chicago, or Center for Urban Transformation. We do not endorse any products that you may see or hear mentioned. We are not affiliates to any corporation, and we do not receive any monetary considerations from any corporation or organizations to do this presentation. Again, I'm Warren Williams, and my co-presenter is Robert Johnson, and you will be able, if you're interested, to contact me through my UIC email address, and Robert you can connect with through the Chicago Grows Food email address. So moving on. So these are called cloches, and you can make them, if you will, using plastic bottles. And we included them because this is something that you can use, and particularly want to use in the springtime. When if you get started and we get a little cold snap, they'll protect your plants overnight. This is the free version, if you will. And then you could search for various vendors that sell these ready-made ones. And they really do work really well if it's not going to be really cold. They will not take you from like now through the winter. They're not designed to do that. They're more of a spring application, if you will. So keep that in mind. And also typically they're not that big. If you're going to use a gallon bottle, for example, you might want to retain the top too, because that will help you retain the heat if you use them. But they're not going to be big. So as I was saying earlier, if you've got some tender small plants that are coming into their own in the springtime, that's the best application for this. It allows you to start a bit earlier, if you will, and get going, particularly stuff that may be a little more tender. And again, we're going to cover some plant options or crop options later on in the presentation. So I'm going to turn this section over to Robert, who is our cold frame builder and an expert, if you will. So Robert, you and I can take you through the slides. It's just one illustration of one design, many design options. And so if you read the text here, I offer some information that will allow you to do cold frames in a safe way. Sometimes people use old windows that they find in the alley or whatever. And so beware that you may encounter lead paint or whatever the case may be when you use those kinds of resources. But as you can see from the pictures here, there are other options. So Robert, you want to talk about this, or you want me to play the video first?
Yeah, let me just run it, just say a couple of things about that's a typical one that you've seen right there. That's a typical, probably a 6 feet by 4 feet with the wood sides, and the top is kind of the glass or the thick plastic. One could also use the panels, the plastic panels that make a greenhouse, as opposed to using windows that may have lead-based paint. And one could also use other materials for the sides, as not just the wooden frame. You could just line up some blocks also if you don't have the wood and have that kind of availability. And you could explore other options than just a traditional wood frame to grow or to extend your season.
Also, if you're going to build your own, in addition to being aware of lead paint issues or lead issues that may contaminate your soil, also make sure if you're purchasing wood or if you want to repurpose wood, make sure the wood has not been chemically treated. That is another thing you must be aware of. Your wood selection, if you're going to purchase wood, also in terms of treating your wood or using a wood preservative, make sure that they are ecologically friendly and they won't be a source of contamination in and of themselves. Again, our overall purpose in terms of virtually anything we do is to make sure that people that are doing gardening here in our Chicago area, or anywhere, in fact, is that they do so safely. So we got a little time. This is a short video, so we'll just play this through right quick.
Hi, I'm Tricia, an organic gardener. Cold frames and hotbeds are easy to build structures that can help you extend your season or give your plants a jump start. Cold frames and hotbeds are basically the same structure. The only difference is that one is heated only by the sun and the hotbeds have an alternative heat source. These are easy structures to build, or there are kits available like this jewel cold frame. They consist of a sash made of glass. Old windows can work very well, or plastic polycarbonate and a support frame made of wood, brick, or cement block. The front should be at least 1 foot tall and the back taller, with about a 1-inch rise for every foot of frame. Cold frames and hotbeds should be positioned with a full southern or southeastern exposure. Face the front either southeast or directly south. A windbreak to the north or northwest is recommended. A straw bale, a building, even an evergreen hedgerow will make a great windbreak. A windbreak should not shade your frame. Mobile cold frames like this one are great for overwintering your half-hardy perennials. Or they can be positioned a few inches in the ground for better insulation and for more permanent structure. A hotbed requires a little bit more preparation. You're going to need some hardware cloth, some sand, a heating cable, and some burlap. For an electrically heated hotbed, dig down 6 inches. If the soil is not well drained, dig down 12 inches and add a layer of gravel. Lay some burlap down either directly over the ground or over the gravel. Add about a 4-inch layer of sand. This heating cable with a thermostat will keep your hotbed warm all winter long, so you can grow vegetables throughout the winter. You can even start your root cuttings, or you can start your spring vegetable garden. The thermostat activates at temperatures below 74 degrees, and it produces 3.5 watts of heat per linear foot. For warmer climates, you might only need 10 watts of heat per square foot. If that's the case, space the cable 4 inches apart. In colder areas, change your spacing to 3 inches apart for 14 watts per square foot. It's important to lay your cable on an evenly graded bed and not allow the cable to cross itself. Once you've laid your cable down, add another 2 to 3 inches of sand. Just lay your hardware cloth over the sand. Build or place your cold frame on top. Now add 4 to 6 inches of good soil on top and your hotbed is ready to go. If you have a cold frame and not a hotbed, you can insulate with a burlap bag filled with leaves, or you can add heat with a light bulb. Temperature control is crucial. Too much heat is just as bad as too much cold. A temperature actuated vent opener like this is a wonderful accessory to automatically control temperature. Sashes should be raised opposite the prevailing wind to prevent your seedlings being burned by the wind. Water your plants early in the morning so that in the evening, when the sashes are closed, the foliage is dry. Grow food all year long in a cold frame or hotbed and grow organic for life.
So that's another just overview for you. So co-frames are really a good choice if you are inclined to build your own or purchase a kit or whatever the case may be. Robert, did you have anything else?
Just that, make sure you have easy access to your growing frames, especially if it's snow, that kind of, just be conscious of that when you're building the cold frames or the
And that's another reason why they're slanted as well, so you can kind of sweep the snow off as needed. And again, you're gonna have to figure out where to place it so you don't have to trudge through, a lot of snow to get to it, that kind of thing. But that's the basic overview of cold frame. Do we we'll hold off. So if you got questions, hold off until the end or put them in the chat, and Margie will help us sift through that stuff. So we'll just keep going at this point.
We may want to take a break soon, Baba Oren, whenever you feel like we're getting close to a good time for that.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break now. So we'll come back around just a little bit before 10:30.
Okay. Hello, welcome back, everybody. So the next portion of this in terms of season extension is what we call low tunnels. And I like this picture because it gives you a contrast between on either side of the low tunnels, you see what we refer to as high tunnels. So, and we'll cover those briefly here in a minute as well. So, as you can see here, we'll go ahead and it's another short video. We'll play as many of them as we can. They're embedded into the PowerPoint. Anybody that's interested, we will make sure you get a copy of it. Marjorie, I think we're going to get the PowerPoint and interpret it as well. So
Yes.
if those of you that are Spanish speakers, we'll make sure that you get a Spanish version when we're done. So just let us know what your needs are.
Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. I just want to show you a simple way that you can build tunnels inexpensively, and you can use it to put ag fabric over like we did here. And this was done to keep the white butterfly from laying eggs on all of our kale. And this was actually done with posts, and we don't really necessarily like this look. It can be done making hoops with ladder mesh, and I'll show you how to do that and explain it to you. This is a little bit more expensive. People do use the PVC pipe, but that takes a little more work to make the hoops, the half circles. This just tucks right into the ground, and you can pop it out, lays flat. It's very easy to store. If you're on a budget, you can just get T-posts or stakes, and then you would put them maybe every 4 feet or 6 feet, and you could put a tight wire all the way down, and then this would be like a teepee right over here, and that will be okay. And you could put ag fabric down. Again, that lets in the sunlight, but you can also, it's middle of October, you could also put down plastic. You can use painter's tarp. You want to get like 4 mil thickness. The higher the number, the thicker it is. Or you can get greenhouse plastic, but you could also make a sort of cold frame or a low tunnel here and extend your growing season. I'll talk about that too in a second. So what is that material? That's a ladder mesh. So ladder mesh comes in different sizes. I get this at Home Depot. They all don't have it, but it's called ladder mesh. It's a masonry product. So you can check out stores that may sell that, concrete bricks, all that kind of stuff. Looks like a ladder, 8 feet long. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting these in half. You'll need some wire cutters, and it's real easy if I can do it one-handed. And you would just snip it right down the middle. Let's do another one real quick. One-handed is a little bit of a challenge. And then you end up with a piece just like this. You can cut it to any size. You could use the whole piece. It'll be a bigger tunnel, and that means you could grow different size plants, and you could use it again, plastic over this so that you can extend your growing season, or you could use tulle or ag fabric or something like that. And if I can do this one-handed, you can certainly do it without a camera in your hand. And you're just setting up these hoops all the way down, maybe every 3 feet, 4 feet. You could even push it to 5 feet, save some money. And you just push one side in like that, then the other side down, stick it in, and you have the hoop that easy. And then again, when you pop it out, it's going to lay for the store. Just want to give you the ag fabric where you can just ag fabric has UV protection, so it's going to last many years. Toll, what you buy at a fashion shop, that doesn't have UV protection mail too. But look at the kale. There are no holes in there. This is keeping away butterflies and moths that lay eggs on the brassicas, and things look pretty good. These are pieces. We use this actually to cover up the trees here at Freetown Farm to protect them from the cicadas. So we just repurposed them, and we just put in T-posts all the way down, and you know, you get the idea. And with the tent design, the hoop design, if it rains, well, number one, rain will go through this fabric, so it will water it. If it was plastic, the water will run off to the side. If it snows, it will go off to the side. Same with the hoop. This way you don't get the weight of snow and water pulling on top of your plastic. Ag fabric is perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about that. Just wanted to give you an idea of how this is working. So let's just say that this wire hoop, this ladder mesh, measures 4 feet. The material that you will use to cover it has to be 4 feet to cover from here to here. If you had a 6 foot hoop, you would need 6 feet of material from the end all the way over. And then you want an additional foot coming out this side, an additional foot coming out this side. So let's say this is 4 feet. You would need 4 feet to cover the hoop, a foot there, a foot there. That's 6 feet. This way, when you drape it over, you can put down stones, bricks, 2x4s. You could use paper clips, any kind of clip on the ag fabric or the plastic all the way down. And then when you need to get to certain places, you can unclip it, move the 2x4 or whatever, but you get the idea. You don't really want to come right to here, because if you're using it to extend your season, cold air can blow under there. If you're just using it for the ag fabric, maybe save some money and you could clip it down to here. The moth, the butterflies aren't going to fly under that. So just to recap, if you're using the ag fabric, you do have some leeway with how far you come out. If you're doing this to extend the season with plastic, you really want that extra foot to weigh it down and keep everything warm. And how this works for extending your growing season is the earth is warm. You have the plastic on top. The warmth of the earth helps keep everything warmer, for lack of another word. Also, the sun will come in through the plastic and heat up this space. You do have to be very careful that if you're kind of transitioning from fall to later fall, beginning of the winter, if the temperatures outside get really to 60 degrees and it's sunny, you want to open up the end and let some air blow through, because it is possible that it gets too sunny, especially if it gets into the 70s. That heat will cook the leaves of your plant. So you just have to pay attention to that. But this is perfect for when you're getting into beginning of winter or your falls get really cold. You could easily extend the season 4 to 6 weeks and grow all kinds of different things in there. Let me just take a walk down here. This one was the one we added, don't count that. But the spacing is just something like this. And you can design it however you want to fit the size of your garden. And you get the idea going all the way down. It's a real inexpensive way to build a low tunnel, sort of a cold frame, a hoop tunnel, really something that's lower to the ground. It's a lot easier for something lower to the ground to manage and keep the temperatures warm. When you get to a bigger hoop house or something larger, you have all that space in there and you have to be able to keep that warmer. So I like these really low tunnels for extending your growing season. Thanks so much for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com and just use the ladder mesh to kind of design what you need to fit your garden. Welcome to the Rusted Garden Home.
For some reason, I cannot advance the slide.
I saw go towards like the bottom left corner. Do you see there's the little arrows
Oh,
down
yeah.
there? Try that.
Got
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Thanks, Marjorie.
That's why I'm here.
Go ahead, Robert.
No. I just said that was awesome, Chief.
So high tunnels, we're getting short on time, I think. So I'm gonna play the video here. But again, you can get the PowerPoint as long as you're connected to the internet. You can play the videos on your own. This is just a larger version, and I like the picture at the bottom too, because this designer dubbed them a mid tunnel, somewhere between a low and a high tunnel. So with any of this stuff, it's just be creative, if you will. And again, you can bend your own pipe. You can buy pre-bent frames or pipes, whatever the case may be. You have choices. The bottom picture, again, they used a plastic cover, a greenhouse plastic cover that you can drape over. And that, if you take care of it, when you're not using it in the warm weather, if you take it up and fold it up and put it away, you can actually get 2 or 3 seasons out of that. Well, the one at the top is a bit more extensive, but just give you an idea what your possibilities are with respect to the high tunnels. Again, a short video here. I won't play them in the interest of time, but check them out. And the one on the right is another option that you have. And surprisingly, those little greenhouses like that work really well. Robert, you got any thoughts on this?
Just with these low tunnel, high tunnel, mid-range tunnels, that you could use that as a transition. I'm sure as a transition for your starters going into the spring, and to get them kind of acclimated.
Well, yeah, that, and things with overwinter.
Yes.
Particularly things like greens, like your heavier greens, like your kales, your collard greens, those sorts of things. Even spinach. And one of the things that he sort of mentioned, even when it's 0, and I've been in high tunnels and greenhouses that weren't heated in the wintertime, on days when it was near 0 and the sun was out, you will actually have temperatures nearing 50 or 60 degrees. So you kind of have to watch it. Of course, they're going to cool off as nighttime arrives, and you do have shorter days, so you won't get that much sun exposure, but those are things to consider. With any of these things, make sure that you anchor them properly. The video on your left is another short video, but it really deals with how to anchor your system, particularly if you're using PVC or any system as well. You might want to consider putting the sleeve in the ground and doing that sort of thing.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well anchored down, given the windy situation here in Chicago.
Right. And also, just in terms of snow, you might have to knock some off. Sometime it'll just slide off, whatever the case may be. But when on snowy days, you just got to make sure that once the snow event is over, that you clean the snow off. And that's so that the sunlight can get through more than anything else.
So we've had this greenhouse for almost 3 months now. In today's video,
So do we need a break here?
Neil, how are you
Okay.
feeling? Do you want a break? You can just nod. I know you can't talk because you're in the other channel. Break is good. Okay, yeah, let's do a short break. Let's come back at just like a little bit before 10:50.
You want to wait? You want to break that long? Okay.
Just 5 minutes again.
Okay. Okay. All right, welcome back, everybody. Um, so this is another option. And again, like we said earlier, it's always based upon your budget, which you can afford. The one on the left is just one example of what's available commercially. If you're going to decide to go this route, I highly recommend that you do your homework and you do it vigorously. Um, One thing that I will say to you if you want to go this direction is to make sure that you buy an entire system, if you will, and one that has anchoring um, parts to it as well as the greenhouse structure itself. Um, I have found that many of the comments or the recommendations aren't worth the type that's in the print. People often are paid to provide comments. The one on your right is actually the one at my house, and it has gone through several repair cycles and that sort of thing. And an example of what I'm saying, when I uh, purchased this particular one, and I was able to do because I got a small grant to do so, because we do this work and we wanted to do what we're doing today, provide examples of what the possibilities were. And so Robert, in fact, and his team will be at our house in the next week or two to build a cold frame that will go next to the greenhouse. So we're trying to build out all these examples for our home gardening community, so that we can encourage people to extend their growing season again, if that's something they'd like to do. And so one of the comments or something, oh, if the panels pop out, you can pop them right back in. No, you couldn't do that. It wasn't designed that way. So again, be wary, do your homework, contact me, and I will give you some options. I cannot recommend specific products, but once we talk and you do your research, you will have some options. The other thing to note is if you decide to go this direction, you probably want to make your purchase during the winter time, because once springtime hits, the inventory goes away very, very quickly. Robert, got anything here?
Well said. Just having your structure well, firm, structurally sound, to withstand whatever the elements are really crucial in this endeavor. And you do learn things as you go along.
And sort of on the left, if you look at the grow bags, that was part of the great Chicago Rose Food backyard or home garden installation project that we did, that Marjorie, correct me, we did close to 50 home garden installations this year. And this was just an example. We kind of shifted around what we do here, and we've been doing grow bag home gardening for 4 or 5 years now. So we just took the system that was gifted to us through the program, and that's how we laid it out. So we use those grow bags, we use those plants. We added some things to it, like in the front there, you see some greens coming up, some flowers for pollination. And we use stuff that's discarded. So the 3 brown containers in the front, they're called earth boxes, that somebody actually threw out, that we were able to recover, and we continue to use them. So my point there is that, be creative. So there'll be another video for you that I think is pretty good. And again, if you look at the bottom, the text, they're the keywords if you want to search further for more information about backyard or hobby greenhouses. And again, feel free to reach out to us to discuss or talk about what to do if this is your choice. And again, it's not something you must have, but you know, greenhouses are actually pretty nice. I didn't have a picture inside, but we had a huge tomato crop in there. And so, yeah, we really liked what turned out. And we had several plants, and we must have gotten 75, 80 tomatoes out of the tomatoes that were in the greenhouse this year. All that stuff has been cleaned out. A lot of the stuff that you saw outside, like the greens and that kind of stuff, and we have starts in there, they will go in the greenhouse to overwinter. So again, you can kind of see the progression in terms of extending your season and growing into the winter. Kind of going back to the low tunnel situation, we've had collard greens and kales that just with the garden cloth, we were able to have them survive through the winter and picked greens off of them into February or March even. So there's a lot of possibilities here. Again, this is an overview. We're happy to talk to you more about this as we move along. Again, we're short on time. I think our stop time is 11, right, Marjorie?
You actually have until 11:30.
Oh, do we?
But
Oh.
we can end early. You know,
No, I don't know why I had 11 stuck in my head. That's why
okay.
I was not playing the videos too. So, so no, we've got a little bit more time, which is great. So the other thing to consider is we talked about all this outside stuff. So let's just look at this quick video about another option that you have, and that's to grow food indoors.
Hi, I'm Stephen with AlbertaUrbanGarden.ca. As fall takes hold and the garden outside winds down for the winter, I love to start to grow inside my house. On today's video, I'm going to give you some quick tips on getting set up growing indoors. Much like growing outdoors, growing indoors does not have to be complex or expensive. In order to grow indoors, you'll need three main things: soil, light, and seeds. Soil is the most important part about growing indoors. Typically, I grow in a very simple mixture of 1 part soilless potting mix and 1 part compost. The soilless potting mix will hold water while allowing free drainage in the pot. This is important as most of the issues indoor growers encounter have to do with overwatering and the soil being too saturated for too long. There are usually enough nutrients in the compost to completely eliminate the need for fertilizer products during the indoor growing season. I typically like to purchase these products near the end of the season when they're on sale. The reason that I like to purchase these products as opposed to make them myself is that they're fairly devoid of life. Specifically, this is important for pests. If you bring in a pest from, say, a compost that you've made and it is able to get going indoors, it's not regulated by the predators that would regulate it outside, and they can cause a lot of damage very quickly. Now that we have the soil dealt with, the next most important part is the light the plants need to grow. Light, as you can imagine, is a very important part of growing indoors. If you have a south or southwest facing window in the northern hemisphere or a north facing window in the southern hemisphere, you can take advantage of the free sunlight. I built a shelf under my south facing window to take advantage of the natural light coming through it in the winter. If you don't have access to a window like mine, you can use grow lights to grow indoors during the winter. If you start doing research into grow lights, you're going to find terms like nanometers, wavelengths, Kelvin, lumens, watts. While I have gone into great depth into this subject in the past, indoor grow lights can really be boiled down to 2 simple tips. Pick the right type of light bulb. Incandescent bulbs don't work very well, but compact fluorescent and fluorescent light bulbs do work very well. There are more expensive options such as LED and high pressure sodium lights, just to name a few. But For what I want to achieve, I will stick with the more affordable fluorescent lights. The second thing I recommend is to look for a bulb that has the highest watts available in the right Kelvin rating. You are looking for a Kelvin rating of 6500 or 2100. There are tools online that translate the descriptions such as soft white into a Kelvin rating. Lights with different Kelvin ratings may work, but they will be far less efficient, and you may not be able to harvest any crops from under them. The final thing you will need is seeds to grow. Unlike outside, inside your house, using either a window or grow lights, there are a few limitations to what you can grow. Winter light by its nature is a little bit weaker, and once it comes through this glass, it loses a little bit of its power as well. And there's no grow light that can even come close to replicating the natural light during summer. You can push the limits with some very expensive equipment, but for the most part, I like to keep things simple and focus on the crops I know work well indoors under lower light conditions. A cornerstone of my winter garden is herbs and leafy greens. Leafy greens and herbs are well established to grow in lower light areas, making them perfect candidates to grow indoors. Later in the season, I do start some of my summer crops inside, such as peppers and tomatoes, but I don't really push them to produce. While some of the smaller bodied peppers and tomatoes will produce inside, generally the crops are quite small, while the plant takes up a lot of this valuable grow space that I have. With that in mind, I do like to experiment and enjoy harvests of peppers and tomatoes when I have the space available over the long cold winter months. Growing indoors during the winter allows me to harvest fresh herbs and leafy greens that go wonderfully with the preserved crops from my summer garden. For a more in-depth look at grow lights or anything else that I've spoken about today, check out the link on screen now, and make sure to subscribe to catch all future episodes.
So that's an overview of another option. Like I said, growing indoors is a good option for you. Pay attention to what he was saying. Optimally, things like spinach and lettuces and herbs and those sorts of things are your best options for growing indoors. And again, anything that is possible, of course, based upon what you're able to afford. So don't feel like anything that we presented here is something that you must do. It's all based upon what you have available in terms of your budget and what's affordable to you. And that's all relative. So I would never say, oh, this is, affordable or less expensive or more expensive. That's based upon what your household can support. So keep that in mind. The other thing to consider, and Robert, please jump in here, is the seed or crops that you select. And this is a partial list. I eliminated some of the stuff that typically people in our communities don't typically grow. But there are other possibilities as well. If you're interested, I'll give you the full list. Just contact me for that.
I would add that if you are going to grow indoors, make sure you seal around the windows and the little holes that any cold might be coming in. Make sure you seal up those so you minimize any the cold, and just kind of increase the heat capacity inside.
Yeah, and also in terms of the list here, these are applicable to both spring and fall. Many of them have short maturity seasons. This is something else that we can talk about. So if you're going to search online, for example, or you're going to your garden center, pay attention to the seed pack or any information about a particular crop that talks about maturity rates. So in the spring and in the fall, you want things that are going to mature in like 40 to 60-day range in particular. And so in the spring, that's important because many of us have experienced lately that hot spell we get in May. So if you, for example, were able to start something in early April off of this list, with a short maturity season, you may get a mature crop before they bolt. Some things like collards and kale, they're really hardy. They don't mind cool weather. They don't mind the hot weather. Uh, you know, they're able to do all of this. Spinach, if you note on the list, or even broccoli and cabbage and those sorts of things, they will do what's called bolting, or they will go to seed. So that's why you want to get an earlier start, and I even recommend growing some of that stuff as a fall crop and into the winter. Robert, you got anything?
You know what, one of the, like, for example, herbs, like consider that there are certain herbs like sage, sacred sage is really a perennial that thrives in zone, I think zone 5 to 8. So that could be something that that would be totally year long, that you could be open to trying sage, thyme, rosemary. That's a perennial, and it would, thrive in the Chicago weather year round.
Right.
Things
and
like
lavender. I will add lavender to that list.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Garlic, you could sow
and
garlic.
they're woodier herbs.
Yes.
Some of your basil, that kind of stuff, they won't overwinter. In fact, I had some sage in a grow bag that came back 4 years. It didn't come back this year, so
Okay.
there's a time limit to them. But
Yeah.
so for 4 years, we got really large, really a lot of sage. We have thyme, marjoram, and oregano that came back for 2 or 3 years as well. So thank you for that, Robert.
Yeah, I was actually in a garden this year, and it was a sage that the guy was growing for over 5 years. I'm like, oh my God. So that's just from actual experience and just a reality thing there. And of course, your herbal garden, depending on the herb, I'll definitely have certain medicinal properties to them.
Yeah, and all the ones that Robert mentioned, I didn't do anything special. I didn't cover them, or didn't. This year I put them in the greenhouse or whatever the case may be. But after I harvest them, which we will do this weekend, in fact, with the sage and the marjoram and that sort of thing, and we have what we call a dehydrator, so you can actually go online and search for how to dehydrate herbs, whatever the case may be. You can do some of that in your oven as well, at a very, very low temperature. So you don't want to set your oven at 450 degrees to do that. But 180, not more than 200 degrees. And you got to pay attention as well. But the dehydrator is a slower kind of process, so that's what we use. You can also harvest your herbs and hang them to dry naturally. That's another option. And they will get you through the winter. So, but those things, and a lot of perennial crops too. We can maybe go into that in another session, right, Robert?
Yes. And just FYI, now is really a good time to sow like garlic.
Yeah.
In nice nutrient soil, because you could use all parts of the garlic, the flowers, you could cook just the whole array of things. So that would be another thing to possibly explore relative to season extension, restoration, here in the Midwest.
So do a little research on garlic, like just
Yeah.
real simple keywords. Garlic to plant in zone 5 and 6 in the fall. Because it's hard neck and soft neck and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
So important considerations. And you can usually find sources for garlic online. Again, I can't give you specific companies or any of that, but do your search. And if you are so inclined to order things online, they are available. Virtually everything we talked about is available online as well. We have a few more minutes. Did anybody want us to go back to any of the videos we mentioned? If you got questions, if you want to unmute and ask your questions or put them in the chat, we're happy to answer any questions you may have as well. And so we can go back if you'd like. We can stop here for questions and discussion. It's entirely up to our guests.
That sounds good. I'm going to turn off the interpretation now so that we can all be on the same channel. So that if there are any questions, then Kesniel can do the interpretation.
El intérprete puede interpretar la pregunta.
Okay. Are there any questions?
¿Hay alguna pregunta?
Did anybody want us to go back to anything? We can do that as well. We had a couple of videos we didn't play.
También podemos regresar a información previa. Tenemos algunos videos que todavía no les hemos enseñado.
So again, this is our contact information.
De nuevo,
Okay.
esta es nuestra información de contacto.
We had something in the chat so that we take care of what the person was requesting. So it was in Spanish. Can you interpret for us?
Yes, Andrea is commenting that she felt that everything you said was really great and that she's okay. She doesn't
Okay.
have any questions.
Thank you. We appreciate. Thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you so much. And we will follow up via email to share the slides, and we'll also work on getting a recording in Spanish that we can share too.
And slides in Spanish.
Yes.
¿Puedo decir algo? Todo lo que dijeron, muchas gracias. Ya tomé ideas de las fotos, de los videos que pasaron. Muchas gracias.
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you for everything that you said. I already got a great idea from all the pictures that you showed and the videos. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea. We appreciate you coming. And please share the information you get from us with your gardening community and friends and your family. And you have our information. We will try to answer any questions that you may have. Chicago Grows Food, that's a general email. You can reach out to Robert or to Chicago Grows Food generally with any questions you have. And anybody is welcome to contact me at my UIC address or email address. And I'm always happy to try to assist or just talk about gardening in general. If you have something you'd like for us to work with you on during the upcoming season and into next year and through next year, let us know as well. I have a team that is really very good with Miriam Verto and Tracy Williams. Miriam is bilingual, and she's really good with all of this stuff. And so we invite people to reach out to us. And we love to work with people in the community as well. So thank you again for showing up. Robert, do you want to close us out?
Let's pause so Kasniel can translate or interpret what you just said, and then Robert can close us out.
Okay.
Andrea, muchas gracias por su comentario. Nos da mucho gusto que pudo estar aquí con nosotros. Que quisiera recordar que aquí está toda nuestra información de contacto. Se pueden comunicar con Robert a través de este correo de Chicago Grows Foods y conmigo, Oren, a través de este correo de UIC. Igual podemos ayudarlos con cualquier pregunta que tengan de jardinería, o si tienen algún proyecto que les gustaría pues comenzar ahorita en la temporada, también podemos ayudar con eso. Tenemos un equipo bilingüe, entonces tenemos esa capacidad de poder ayudarlos.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kasniel. And Robert, do you want to close us out with any words before we sign off?
Yes, just thank you so much. Just that Mother Nature has given us everything possibly to address just growing our own food. And personally, it's a great joy to pick fresh colored greens, tomatoes, some okra, whatever, chard, and just, you know, consume that. Just the taste, it's just far beyond things that you just get out of the store. And I think as we move forward, we just really need to increase our capacity to grow food safely, and that we should not limit what the mind could do, and just to be really creative in this endeavor, because there are a lot of benefits to growing, you know, food, and know who grows your food, and that what you're consuming is definitely nutritious. Thank you.
Oh, I might add real quick, grow what you like, grow what's culturally appropriate for you. If it's chiles, tomatillos, whatever it is, if you're Asian, if you're Latinx, if you're African descent, and then also try other things as well. So leave you with that as well. Thank you, Robert. Thanks, Marjorie, for your support.
Yes.
Thanks to our interpreter. Yay to the interpreter.
Yeah, Kasniel, do you want to translate or interpret, I should say, everything that was said, and then we can sign off.
Parte de Robert, me gustaría dar gracias por estar aquí con nosotros, y pues quiero hablarles sobre cómo pues, es muy importante poder crecer nuestros propios alimentos. Da mucha alegría poder probar un alimento que uno mismo creció. De verdad hace muy bien saber que uno mismo creció eso, que sabe que la comida tiene pues nutrientes, y pues el sabor también es mucho mejor de lo que cualquier cosa que uno puede conseguir en las tiendas. Hay que tener mucha creatividad en cómo crecemos la comida, y es muy importante pues poder continuar a aumentar nuestra capacidad para crecer más alimentos que pues nos hagan felices. Oren también comentaba que hay que pues crecer los alimentos que sean pues apropiados para nosotros. Hay que crecer lo que nos guste, lo que nuestra cultura también tenga, ya seamos mexicanos, seamos de Asia, seamos con cultura de África. Cualquier alimento que nos guste es muy bueno para empezar a crecer, y pues también es bueno expandir nuestros horizontes a productos que pues tal vez no conozcamos, pero que nos pueden gustar mucho. Gracias.